I need help. I'm a one-man show today. Golly. Ooh, yeah.
I
Okay, so
understand.
we are officially live, and so we're going to just move the banner.
Okay.
All right, and any comments is to your right. It will be to your right that will come through, and so all right, we are officially live. So thank you all for chiming in with us. We are so excited for this particular podcast on today. We have such a distinguished guest with us on today. And so we're excited that you all are chiming in with us for this afternoon. Yes, thank you for chiming in with Pastor BJ Connections. And we are here live with you all. We have none other than Mr. Thomas W. Dortch Jr. from 100 Black Men of America. Yes, so we're excited. Yes. We're so excited that he is with us on today. We're honored to have such an amazing man of God. Because you are a man of God. You have done
Oh,
such great
yes.
work. You have done a phenomenal work in your time and in your tenure, just going through all that you have developed, encourage, build, help build, help promote, help all these wonderful good things. You have done it. And so we are honored that you are here. We want to talk about 100 Black Men of America, Inc., the organization, the foundation, the history, the legacy, all that they're doing a phenomenal work. But before we get started, I want to introduce you to this gentleman. I want to introduce you to him, just tell you a little bit about what he has done and what he continues to do, because I believe that his legacy has already been laid, is already rich, is already going to affect and permeate through generations well beyond what he can even imagine. So I think he has already laid that strong foundation. So we have with us none other than Mr. Thomas W. Dortch Jr. And we do apologize for being a little late. We had a little technical difficulties, but we're here. We're here. So we apologize for the late start, but we're here. Mr. Dortch, he was born in Georgia, and I'm just going to take some snippets from his bio. He was born in Georgia. He actually, and what do you know? It's been technical difficulties all day.
So little Toccoa, Georgia.
Yes, Toccoa, Georgia, right? Is that how you pronounce it? Toccoa?
Toccoa, yes.
Toccoa, Georgia. Okay. And my laptop just went blank. Great. All right.
We can wing it. You know that. We're always prepared.
Yeah, so we can wing it. We're going to get back to it. But we definitely want to talk about some things, and we'll touch on some of the things that he has done as the conversation goes on. For those that are asking, because I got people texting me asking where the podcast streaming from. It's streaming from my page. It is public, everybody. I promise you it's public. It's public. We just been having difficult. That's okay. I love it, because that means that we're doing something right. Whenever you get stumbling blocks along the way, that means you're doing something right. And so we are doing something right on today. And so I'm excited about it. So let's talk about because we just said we're going to just be real informal. Tommy, okay, and I'm Brenda. Right. So let's talk about your beginnings. All right, let's start there so the people can know who you are. And as I was telling you, that I actually came upon your organization. I was looking up I like to study and research stuff and all that stuff. So I came upon that organization, just going through and studying some stuff. And I said, who are these people? And where are they at? And I have a heart for especially Black men, Black young boys. I have a heart for them. And so I'm like, where are they at? And I'm looking around, I'm seeing all these chapters, and I'm like, there's none around me like that. And so, and I began to just research. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to reach out and see, can one of them be a part of my platform? Lo
Right.
and behold, that I know that I was going to actually get the chairman of the
Right.
organization. So I was excited about that. So tell us a little bit about your beginnings
Right.
and bring us forward.
Well, Brenda, it's quite amazing when you look at the challenges we have today throughout this country with police brutality and the challenges. Well, our organization actually, the first chapter started in 1963 in New
Mhm.
York. It was founded by the late great Jackie Robinson. Many people know about him from sports, but he was a
Yeah.
great civil rights leader. David Dinkins, former mayor of New York, who was the borough's chief at the time, and a total of 100 black men who came together. These are some of the most influential and leading black men in New York came together because in 1963, an African American police officer could not arrest a white citizen unless he was accompanied by a white police officer.
Mm.
And in 1963, an incident occurred where this black police officer was right on the scene of the crime. He arrested the white citizen. And that was an uprising in the police department because he did his job. And so
Right.
that's when these great men came together. They addressed that issue. They changed the whole trajectory of the police department in 1963. And then after
Mm.
that, they dealt with other issues for the black community. And at the end of the year, 1963, they came back together and one to determine one, are we going to stay together? And it was a unanimous decision. We will remain together. And so the question came, what should we call ourselves?
That's
And
powerful.
yeah, and so the Mayor David Dinkins said, we'll call ourselves who we are, 100 Black Men Inc., because it was a total of 100 black men. And
Wow.
so from 1963 to 65, we had a chapter in Newark, New Jersey, 67, a chapter in Los Angeles. And in 1986, with a total of 9 chapters, we came together to form the 100 Black Men of America Incorporated.
Wow.
I'm one of the founding members of 100 Black Men of Atlanta, and we were one of those chapters that helped to found the national organization. And so, fast forward to today, we have 98 chapters. We're in England and the Caribbean islands. We were in
Wow.
Africa. We're revitalizing those. But I was elected the first elected chair in 1994, and I served from 94 to 2004. And during my tenure, we moved the organization from 43 chapters to 102 chapters. Uh,
Wow.
what was important coming in was that we had to be focused because you can imagine the 100 Black Men of America. So many people were impressed that black men were coming together, and they kept calling on us for so many things. So I thought it was important that we had to be focused. So I took to the board in my first inaugural address what is called Four for the Future, and said that
Okay.
anything that we do had to fall in those categories: education, mentoring, health and wellness, and economic empowerment. The
All
board
right.
accepted it. And so here we are today, fast forward 26 years, and we still use Four for the Future as our foundation. I've worked with Nike as one of our corporate partners. We came up with the theme, what they see is what they'll be.
All
And
right.
then real men given real time. And that's
And
true.
that's a
And
big theme in your book. What
that's
they
right.
see, what they will be. That's a big theme.
Because young people emulate adults and
Right.
they're watching us all the time, and we have to understand that they're watching. And so our foundation there is mentoring. Every chapter has to have a mentoring program, and
Mm-hmm.
they have to have educational type programs, some initiative in health and wellness, and economic empowerment. And so we've been very successful as we move forward to where we are today. We have 125,000 plus young people in our mentoring program. We've been honored in 2 Rose Garden ceremonies under President Bush Sr. and President Clinton. We were honored for our volunteerism.
Right.
We were only two. We were one of two African American organizations when President Bush had the Summit on America's Future. We were
Mhm.
only the 100 Black Men of America and the National Council of Negro Women were the only two organizations. But we've moved because in '97 I took the organization international. We went to Gorée Island, Senegal in '97. Then we went to Kingston, Jamaica, then Nassau, Bahamas, then Birmingham, England, and then I came back to London, England. But the key is we saw around the world when you
Right.
see classes, our classes of our young Black men and women, they start at the top of their class, but by the time they get to their junior and senior years, in many cases, they're at the bottom of the class without
Right.
having intervention. And so that in a nutshell is pretty much where we are. We do now, we have Healthcare 2.0. We came up with a number of other initiatives that still, we have a mentoring program for entrepreneurship for young people. But the other key piece, many people think we only mentor young men. We mentor young men and young ladies because young ladies need positive males in their lives. So in a nutshell, that's what we're doing. We have Real Men Vote as we get ready again for the upcoming
Yes.
elections, and we have collegiate chapter 61. I started our collegiate 100 in 1995. Today there are 61 chapters throughout the country. We have
Okay.
emerging 100 for our young professionals who, before they become in the senior chapters. I mean, but there's so many things that this organization has done, and I'm so proud of our members because we are real men given real time, and we understand if we don't focus on our community, we aren't going to change the direction and change the challenges for our community.
That's where I now see. That's where I admire about your organization, the fact that you all are very community oriented, and I love community oriented entities, organizations. When you focus on that community piece, then you're actually building from the inside out, so
Right,
that people can see. Because most people will never leave their community. Most people
right,
will never see beyond their community, and they will take on what they see in their community as being truth, and that becomes their whole reality. But when you
right,
can bring people into the community and expose them and expand their mind, expand their education, expand their growth in areas of social, economic, and culturally, then you will find out, and they find out that it's okay for them to leave their community, but
so
also
true.
come back and give back to their community. So I love that aspect. And I found out because I was ignorant again to your organization, and so I found out that when I was calling to see if someone can come on to the platform, I found out Mr. Henry. He said, "No, we just don't do males. We do females too." I said,
That's important because
"Yes,
many people think that young men only need positive males in
right,
their lives. Our young people and our young ladies need to understand that they're positive men, and we teach our young men you got to respect the young ladies, and to the young ladies, you got to respect yourself.
yes, bravo." Oh boy, we done had some technical difficulties. Don't know what happened. Oh,
Yeah,
there we go.
we're trying to make sure for our young women as well is that there are men who hear and that men who love you and who will
Yes,
take care of you and who will work for you and so even programs back years ago we started young men behaving responsibly because everybody wanted to talk about teen pregnancy, for example, and the only solution was to talk to the young ladies, but you
right,
can't do that. You got to talk to the young men as well. And
absolutely.
what we had to teach our young men is that boys can make babies, but men raise them.
All
And
right,
so
come on now.
teaching them
That's it.
respect for young ladies and teaching young ladies to respect themselves. And so you get that from positive uh, intervention because unfortunately, in too many communities around this country, the adults, Black adults, men and women, have failed our young people.
Yes,
and young
absolutely.
people think that we don't care, and we got to be there because that's why I think what they see is what they'll be. When young people look around in their communities, if they're not exposed to other opportunities, they begin to think that the only opportunities I have in life is what I see.
That's right.
And there are people who are down on their luck. And unfortunately, as you know, Brenda, when we came out of the civil rights movement,
Hmm.
and it's still continuing, but the major push, many African Americans who saw success moved out of the neighborhood.
That's right.
And we blame everybody else, but our young people and families who were left behind had to work and struggle. But the young people didn't see the masses of successful Black men and women.
That's
And
right.
so what we're saying is we've got to reinvest. We got to be there. I go into these neighborhoods, and let me tell you, some of the smartest young people in the world exist in
All
these
right, no.
neighborhoods.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
and don't tell me that these parents don't care. You got parents working 2 and 3 jobs to provide for their families.
That's right.
And then the other important thing is on broken homes. A broken home is not a home that only has one parent. A broken home is a home without love. And we'd love to see
Ooh,
both parents, but I know families with multimillionaires in them. That's a broken
they're
home
broken.
because they
They're
don't share
broken.
love with their children.
Absolutely.
And so those are the things that we're trying to do and getting our people to understand. If we don't take care of our own communities, how can we challenge anybody else for the things we aren't doing?
That's right. Absolutely. And this is essential. I can attest to that. I grew up in inner city Camden, New Jersey. During the 70s and the 80s. So when all this, crack epidemic was going on, all this stuff was coming about, and and during that era of babies having
Right.
babies, and then all of that, and now, to look at, I was told as a young female, you're going to be a statistic, you're going to have a baby at an early age, you're not going to graduate high school, you're not going, and it's definitely, if you don't graduate high school, you're definitely not going on to college, you know.
Yeah.
But there were key people in my life during that time. And I often tell people, I'll never forget, it was a teacher of mine, Miss Kirk. She was my sewing teacher. And she
Right.
literally, because I mean, I was just wide open
Right.
to with the mouth, actually, with the mouth, right? But
Right.
now look at me, right? I'm having a platform, I'm talking, I'm using my mouth for more empowerment.
Right.
And so I remember I was saying some things that I shouldn't have been saying in the hallway of school. And I was, my father was not present in my life as a young girl. And what happened, she heard me and she pulled me to the side, and I'll never forget it. She said, "Young ladies do not act like this. Young ladies do not say things like this." Yeah, and she really, and I was like, "Oh my God." And it never left me. It never left me. It was that empowerment
Right.
moment as a child, as a teenage girl, that I needed to hear. And she told me that day, she said, "You're going to go on to do some great things, and you're not, don't allow this
There you go.
environment to confine you." And I never did. And so I went on and I graduated and I went to college and I got my master's and all these wonderful good things, and traveled and so forth and so on. And that's what they need. They need
Right.
that person that they can identify with for
Right.
that moment of impact of their life, because they got those traumatized moments of impact. But can we put some positive moments of impact that will forever change and alter their thinking and who they are, and what they see? So that's powerful. Let's
That's
what would you
so
say,
true. That's so true.
that because you talked about your organizational goals, how y'all are giving back to this community, building young people, mentoring young people, helping Black businesses, empowering the neighborhood. We did I have another session where we do Let's Have the Conversation. And what happened, we talked about the visible, invisible Black man, because in
Yeah.
our society, they're not given the respect that they're supposed to be given, but yet, they're visible when it comes down to the violence that is bestowed upon
Right.
them, or put out there, publicize that they're doing. So what would you say to Black men, especially this day and age, that's struggling with all this civil unrest and everything?
For some reason, I don't hear the
Oh,
voice.
oh boy, we got more technical difficulties. Did your pod things die?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, hold on, let's try one more thing here.
Okay.
You hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
You know, when we deal with technical difficulties, we just keep it moving.
Let's keep it moving.
All right, hold on 1 second.
Okay.
What you were
now I can hear you.
If you can hold 1 second, let me see if we can't do one little change. 1 second.
Okay, no problem. Please forgive us. We're just having some technical difficulties. So, like I said before, when you have technical difficulties, you're doing something right.
Can you hear me okay?
Right. Yes, sir. We can hear you.
I see you talking, but I don't hear you.
Oh, wow.
All right. I got one other little adjustment. Hold tight. 1 second.
Okay. So while he's correcting
Let's
or
try
fixing
the old-fashioned way. How's that?
There you go. While he's correcting that, if you all have any questions, please put them in the comment section. We would love to hear from you. If you have any questions for Tommy, please put them in the comment section so that we can also try to answer some of your questions as well. Okay.
I see you talking. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, let's one more thing. Hold on. My mic is on. Let's try this 1 more second. We're gonna have this conversation.
Yes, we're going to.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I don't know why my let's see, one more try.
Okay.
Yeah. If you'll say something, let's see if I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Still no.
Wow, no audio.
Well, let me just.
Do you want to pop out and pop back
while
in?
we can keep this moving? One of the things I want to share growing up, the kind of impact. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but you got to fix your camera.
One of the things that kind of impacted my life growing up was that I used to see individuals in my community. I grew up in a segregated community, and I used to see individuals who worked. Many of them were handymen. My father was an entrepreneur, and I'd see them during the week. They work hard, but on the weekends they kind of would bury their kind of pain and sorrows in the bottle. But these individuals, and that's what I've grown to value, is every person has something to offer.
That's right.
I remember this one gentleman named Billy Latner. He was a handyman for my father and his restaurant. My dad owned restaurants all up and down the East Coast. And I remember when I turned 16, I was going to get they called them learner's license then, for my driver's license. And so Billy was driving me down to go. Dad told him to take me down. And he told me, he said, you know how to drive a car. He said, if you don't go down here and get your license, I'm going to make you walk all the way back home. And I know Billy would have done that.
Okay.
And so my attitude was, I'm going to go take this test because Billy will make me walk. But I went in and I aced the test. And so what was so funny was that Billy came back. He was bubbling and smiling and so proud of me. He said, now when you get back, ask Tom to give you a car. My father was Thomas Dorch Sr.
Okay.
And I did that, and Dad gave me a car. But again, the thing was, here's Billy, and people have to understand, mentors don't have to have big titles, don't have to have big bank accounts. They have to be caring adults. And
Right.
Billy's two daughters, one went on to get a PhD and one went on to be a medical doctor. And while
Okay.
he had his challenges, he understood the value of that. And that's why when we look at where we are and the things we're doing in this whole mentoring space, we have to understand that every person brings a value,
That's right.
and every person, again, wants to make a difference. And so
Mhm.
that's pretty much one of my major points to every person. Anybody who cares about children can mentor, and
Yes.
mentoring are those who give trusted advice. They're individuals that you have to gain trust, but also understand we learn just as much from mentors. I mean, we learn just as much from mentees as we do from mentors.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
wish, I don't know why we're having difficulty
Wow.
in hearing. Um, take one look. Let me, if you'll keep talking, I'm going to take these
Okay.
earpods and see if I can go strictly to a speaker.
Okay. All right. That'll
And
work.
we'll see if
Well, definitely. So, again, while he's getting his speakers and his audio together,
I can
we
hear
thank
you
you all
now.
for chiming in. Do me a favor, you all, those that are chiming in, if you don't mind, tag somebody, tag a African American male, tag an African American female, tag somebody, let them know that we're here, we're live, we're talking to this awesome man of God, Thomas W. Dortch Jr., and he's from 100 Black Men of America. He's the chairman, and he's talking about his organization and what they do and how powerful the impact that they're doing in the community, in the world at large, because they're not just in small communities in the United States, but they are actually global. They're revamping their African chapter, their Africa chapter, excuse me. They're in the Caribbean islands. They're in Europe. So this is not just United States, but this is global. And so this is something that I think that if you don't know about 100 Black Men of America, then get to know them and become a part. Find out how you can tap into what they're doing to bring some awareness to your area and to your community, so that you can also make a difference as well.
And,
Can you
and
hear me?
they can go to, and I hear you clearly now.
Okay.
Our website is 100 ONE 100blackmen.org, and they can see the various things that we're doing and continue to do. See a lot of what our young people are doing. We're so proud of these young people who are in our programs, and look at where they are and the things that they're doing. And so, um, what I encourage everyone to do is get engaged, get involved.
Yeah.
Susan Taylor, who's like a sister of mine, we started working together as CARES Mentoring Movement. We helped to start the organization, and I gave them the first 2 years. They operated out of my corporate office, and,
Okay.
and the 100 partner, because the more people mentor, the better it is. It's not about us competing. It's about us spreading more mentors to get involved. And so Susan, who's phenomenal, and her care and love for our people, left Essence Magazine to do this full time. And she's in a high six figures job, but her commitment was that we got to save our young people. And
Yes.
so with that, we encourage people to get involved. If they would just do 1 hour a week, just think about it, 1 hour a week, just in working and intervening in the life of a child,
Yes.
they'll make a difference in these young people. And when you count up the amount of hours, I mean, you really aren't, as you look throughout the year, I mean, you aren't doing but a couple of weeks. If you do,
Yeah.
if you put that time in to make a difference in the life of somebody, and Brenda, one of the things, and then we'll get back, is
Uh-huh.
we fail to forget that a lot of our young people are growing up that don't think they're going to live past 12, 13, or 14.
Yes.
And if we don't value their lives, and if we don't help them value their lives, what do you think they're going to value our lives for? And,
Absolutely.
and if they grow up not hearing someone say, I love you, and
Right.
someone saying, great job, and those kinds of things, those are the challenges we see today, because I am just as concerned about police brutality, but we have to open our eyes. We're killing each other
Absolutely.
at a rate
Absolutely.
just phenomenal. At least 10 to 15 times more we're killing ourselves than others
Right.
are killing our people. And so we can't make excuses and say we're going to hold police accountable and not hold ourselves, because if black lives
Absolutely.
matter, every
Absolutely.
black life should
Matter.
matter. And we talk about deaths, but think about the hundreds of thousands who are shot and who are stabbed, and the rapes and the beatings.
Absolutely.
And our race is not a we were not a violent race.
We weren't.
And,
Absolutely not.
and so we got to deal with that, because when you look at it, we're killing more of ourselves. But I make the point where people have to understand 88% of all white people who are murdered by white people as well. They don't
Right.
call it white crime.
That's right.
You know.
Right. Right.
So so with that, I mean, it's just things that we have to do, but we have to understand civilization began in Africa.
That's
And we
right.
had philosophers, and we had doctors, and we had engineers.
Yes.
And even to this day, people don't understand how the pyramids were built in Egypt, which is part of Africa.
That's right.
And so with that, we try to teach our young people, be proud of who you are and whose you are. And we've been running for 30 years the African American History Challenge, not only to teach African American kids and black kids. We have white and Latino kids who compete in these competitions, and we think it's great for them to understand the value that we all bring to the world.
Yes, and that's key, because when you look at especially young people in the African American community, where we say the inner cities or rural areas where they're not getting the resources, or they don't have access to a lot of things that maybe other in suburban America has. When we look at all of that, they see more of the tragedies and the trauma. And most kids, before they turn 12 years old, have experienced several traumatic events where they're now growing up with the effects of PTSD.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and so now you not only have to deal with their emotional and their mental, but you got to now also deal with, these symptoms that look like they've been in a war zone when they really haven't even been in a war zone.
Okay.
And so now you need somebody to come in that's going to be consistent in their life, that's going to show them that consistent love, that's going to honor their word to these young people, and that's going to build these young people regardless of how they respond, but let them know that, listen, there is a reason for their actions.
Brenda, you made a very valid point when you say consistency.
Yes.
It's we have to gain the trust of these young people.
Yes.
And once we gain the trust, we got to be there for them. We can't show up today and then miss a few weeks and come back later. You can do more damage by doing
Absolutely.
that. These are vulnerable young people, and
That's right.
we can't forget what we went through. I grew up during segregation. I was born in, as I said, in a little old town, Toccoa, Georgia. I turned 70 this April. But our schools were segregated, the restaurants and all those, but our adults taught us, it's their problem, not yours. And my father, who's an entrepreneur, said, why you want to go spend your money with them? But they don't respect you, they don't respect your dollar. And
so that's good.
And the community, again, looked out for all of us.
Yes.
And it was excellence without excuse.
I love that.
And so when you look at where we are today, the formula that got us through segregation and all is the same formula that's going to get us through what we're challenged with today in society. But young people need us more than ever before.
Absolutely.
And so when you look at our school systems, there's no reason for us not to have high performing schools.
Absolutely.
There's no reason. I mean, when I think about my days of growing up, when we were, this principal would order books and the school systems would take the new books and put them in the predominantly white schools and give us the old.
Oh,
But the teachers told us, look, even though these books may be torn and tattered, you can read through the tape. Excellence without excuse. You got to
love it. I
understand
love it.
the same thing in this book, even with the tape over the page, is the
That's right.
same books they're learning from over there. So again, it's not right, but it should not hinder you from being successful.
Now, I'm gonna say this. This is just Brenda. I really honestly think they need to bring back books and not electronics in school.
Yeah,
I think they need to bring back books and not electronics, because
old school.
electronics they get so distracted, you know. When I was a supervisor at the Masonic Home for Children, and a lot of times we would get calls from the teachers because of the simple fact that the kid, he's on his laptop, but he's so distracted doing everything else except for his work.
Right.
He's watching YouTube videos. He's doing this, that, or the other. I'm sorry. I think books were good then, and I think books, but I love books. I love books. So
Old school did work. But the important thing is for us to understand that our children can learn anything.
They can. They can.
Is if they can learn all of these songs, whether it's rap or whatever,
That's right,
and sing them from beginning to end, and some of them can do them in reverse. If you look at all of the dances our young people are doing and all of the
they come up with,
the old folks can't do, they can learn. They can
Yes,
achieve. Right. We started robotics programs a few years ago, and you'd be amazed to see what
wow,
the youth have done, thanks to Lonnie Johnson, who's the creator of the Super Soaker, which is $1 billion
right,
invention. He's one of my members of the graduate of Tuskegee University, who has young people in inner city building robots. It is amazing when you see what they can do, and then it's amazing what they can do with these phones and iPads.
Right.
So it's how do we teach them how to take the applications?
Absolutely.
We have programs that we've created in coding that we're doing in the
wow.
And so I think the important thing for us in our community's got to have that can-do attitude, is that our children can learn.
That's right.
We got to get engaged. We got to hold school systems accountable.
That's right.
And we got to be engaged and involved in the schools. I mean, I look at teachers now, and our teachers are phenomenal. You have a class of maybe 30 students. 15 may walk in ready for work.
Mm-hmm.
You may have another 10 that need a little bit of work. But then you may have 5 or even as many as 10 that need extra support.
That's
when
right.
I was growing up, you had teacher assistants, and sometimes parents came in and helped. And then you have a disciplinary problem with some students coming in. And even with that, I said that all children aren't bad. They aren't born bad. They learn bad behaviors from adults.
Absolutely.
But the other side of that is that we don't test our young people. Our young people, many come to school with stress.
That's right.
Many of them come to school hungry because they didn't have the nutritional support from families. Many of them basically come with all kinds of mental challenges.
Yes, weights.
Right. And so if we don't address those issues, it's the same with adults. If those young people come and their bellies are aching, they aren't going to learn.
That's right. Absolutely.
And if they're stressed because they had domestic problems at home,
that's right.
Again, I didn't, like I said, so all of that, we have to look at the whole student. At the same time, we have to also value teachers.
That's right.
Pay what they should be paid. And a lot of people have left the profession, and some folks are in because of a job, because we have not valued what we should do. And then some folks said, where were you going to send our kids to private school, private charters?
Right.
Private charters are not the saviors for higher education and for high-performing schools. Only about 50% of them are successful.
Wow.
And we've seen success through public charters, because my position, even on a call with the White House team about 2 weeks ago. They were talking about trying to divert public funds to private charters, and I took them on. And I said,
Wow.
unless every child has the opportunity to go to that private charter school,
Right.
then we will fight you tooth and nail that you will not take one penny from public funds, because public education needs the money, and you're only looking for the best and the brightest. And
Right.
if you give them a $10,000 scholarship and it takes 14, do you think families who are struggling are going to take $4,000 and
That's
put it
right.
in a private school?
No.
And so with that, I mean, it's just so much that we have to do, and I'm just thankful we're having this conversation. But our folks need to understand, as we say, we're here and committed to the uplifting of the Black community, African American community, and ensure the economic and educational opportunities are afforded to all of our people.
Yes.
That's the attitude we have to have. It doesn't matter that we're successful. Every one of my children went to historically Black college and university, because I know if it wasn't for the Fort Valley State University being there, I would not have gone on to Georgia State as a Ford Fellow, or to Atlanta University, which I got my master's in. I currently serve as a trustee, which is now CAU. I'm a trustee for A&M University. I have 5 honorary doctorate degrees from HBCUs, but these are our institutions.
They are.
So those are the kinds of things that I think are important when we look. Is that when we look at ourselves, these are our communities. These are our
children. They are.
And so we're working, and I'm so proud. I chair the board for New Birth Missionary Baptist Church.
Okay.
And Reverend Dr. Jamal Bryan is our senior pastor.
Yes.
A graduate of Morehouse. He has a PhD, but
yes,
we're bringing back that whole thing of taking the church to the community, but also understanding that HBCUs and what we do in our community is about us, Brenda. And that's why, again, our churches, a community, all of us have to play a role together, because we're together.
So let me ask you this question. How can, for example, I know that there is a chapter in Philadelphia, because you all have chapters different places. There's a chapter in Philadelphia. Now, right across the bridge is my home city, Camden, New Jersey.
Yes.
Right. How, if somebody wanted to begin a chapter in a location that does not have a chapter, is that possible? Well, I'm sure it's possible, but how would they be able to go about doing that? And maybe working that out?
We're truly interested in that. They can go to our website, blackmen.org. There are applications and information on starting a chapter. Dr. Albany Price is our chair of our chapter development. We have a chapter member chapter services division at the world headquarters, and they can call and ask for Otis Street, and they will work with them in getting the process started. You have to have a minimum of 25 members.
Okay.
And every chapter has to have a mentoring program. But we have a blueprint that helps them through that. We will work with them, help them get their mentoring program up. But all they have to do is go to our website or either call 404-688-5100. And even though we're working virtually with our system, you can reach any member of our staff on any given day just by going through the main number, and then it'll prompt you to punch 9, and then when you hit 9, it will give you our staff directory. But we're looking, because anywhere there are Black men who are willing to commit their time, we want to have chapters there, because we need more people standing up, working in every community. We have a chapter in Pittsburgh. We have a chapter in, of course, they're in Philadelphia, and they're doing
New York. I saw. Look, I'm like,
New Jersey, Washington D.C., Maryland, Prince George's. You can go all the way
throughout the South and the West. We're located. When they go to our website, they can find the chapter, and they can also find how to connect with the chapter, because we're looking for men who are willing to commit their time and investment. And then there's another great organization called the Coalition of 100 Black Women, and you can find them. We work in partnership with them. They've been around just as long as us. And Dr. Virginia Harris is a national president, and we've been working in partnership. So that's another place to look at in the National Coalition of 100 Black Women.
Well, I definitely will be checking out the National Coalition for 100 Black Women, because I want to get involved. I want to get involved. I love what you all are doing. I love what you all are promoting. I love the fact that you all are reaching back to build up. I love the fact that you all are instilling and building up these young people, as well as, and I don't think it just starts with the young people, but because I believe that, and you correct me if I'm wrong, though, that even if someone comes in and they need some empowerment, and as an adult, you can get that empowerment from you all even as an adult.
That's important, because we say we're involved in mentoring across a lifetime.
Okay, awesome.
Not just starting with them in middle school and high school and college. We want to be engaged in their lives throughout, and that's why you're never too old to have a mentor. Well, one of my greatest mentors just transitioned 2 weeks ago, Dr. C.T.
Oh, wow.
That's when Andrew Young still is a mentor. Wow. He can call me. I'm like 10 minutes away from his home. If he called and said, let's talk, I get in my car and go talk to them.
Right.
Because they've helped me, and they're mentors I've had, and they don't have big titles. Even the late Jondell Johnson was one of my great mentors. She used to be one of the big leaders in the NAACP.
Yes.
Here in Atlanta. And so mentors come in all sizes, shapes, and genders. But people like again, Jondell Johnson helped me to shape a lot of what I do in social action. And John Lewis and I became friends when he was the president of the Voter Education Project.
Okay.
I was SGA president at Fort Valley. I registered 94% of all the students on my campus when I was SGA president, registered them to vote. But we said, we're not going to run for office. We're going to support the people from this community for office. And we elected the majority of the citizens in Fort Valley, which was 58% Black.
Wow.
The majority of Black elected officials were Black, because there was only one Black elected official when I went there, and he had to go to court because they were saying that people didn't pay poll tax. And so, so you look at how voter suppression worked. John and I became close. Congressman Lewis, Julian Bond, who was one of my closest friends, and the late Julian Bond, and then the late Ben Brown. But these individuals are the late Hosea Williams. These men inspired me, and women inspired me to get involved and understand that I have an obligation, no matter how successful I may be in business, I have an obligation to give back, because so much sacrifice for us to be able to do what we do today. And I just say to our people, don't forget the road we travel and how we have been able to enjoy life. And so for me, it's important to take care of my children and my family.
Yes.
But the broader family are the African-American men and women in my community.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a wonderful thing when you can find like-minded people that are interested in promoting and pushing not only the Black agenda, but also the community family agenda. That's important, because this day and age, and I it kind of scares me a little bit, because I find out that sometimes people, with all the civil unrest that's going on, people want to erase what happened. And that scares me, because if you don't know what happened, then you can't understand and know where you're going. you
Yeah.
know, so you won't repeat those same mistakes. And so that scares me when people are really saying, well, we need to take that down with it. It doesn't have to affect you if you are, you know, educated and beyond that, because you understand that this is the thing that we don't want to go back to, because that's why we're working so hard on this end to push something new,
And
you
people
know.
understand the difference between history and his story. And
Yes, absolutely.
so when you look at where we are and you look at all of the inventions and the things that have happened in this nation, even to this point, if it were not for the roles we unfortunately had to play in slavery, the economy of this nation would not be what it is.
Absolutely.
And we came here against our will. But
Yes.
but the amazing people, all these folks talking about you need to go back home, they forget that they didn't come from America. They
Right.
migrated here too. And
Right.
so, you know, Native Americans, again, welcomed them with open arms. And even history
Absolutely.
shows that African Americans were even here long before Columbus.
That's
And,
right. Absolutely.
and so what we got to understand here is that this nation is what it is because we all made it what it is.
That's
It's
right.
not a melting pot, it's a mixing bowl. And all
Oh,
of
that's good.
these different people who come from around the world have contributed to the greatness of America. And
Yeah.
so with that said, we've got to be proud of who we are and whose we are, and understand we made America just as great as anybody else.
Absolutely.
And so that's why understanding our history is important. People have to understand the civil rights movement and the role that freedom riders played,
That's right.
and the fact that so many of these freedom riders came from historically black college campuses and universities, and the leaders of the movement came from HBCUs. Dr. King and Babs
Absolutely.
Young and John Lewis, all of them came from HBCUs, from historically
Absolutely.
black colleges and universities, and they were in their 20s.
That's
And
right.
young
Absolutely.
people don't have to wait to get older to have an impact. And that's why I am so encouraged today when you see so many young people involved in
Yes.
demonstrations today. And when we see the Black Lives Matter movement, see, there's the organization and then there's the movement.
That's
And,
right.
and in the movement, I'm encouraged to see these young people doing voter registration at the demonstrations,
Absolutely.
speaking and being heard. There's a role that all of us have to play. So I say to my adult population, why are you trying to criticize the young people in Black Lives Matter and in the movement? There's a role for all of us. If you look at
That's
the
right.
history, it was the SCLC that had the demonstrations in the streets.
Right.
NAACP was at the table negotiating.
That's right.
You had the labor movement and A. Philip Randolph doing their things. And
Absolutely.
you had, again, SCLC and everybody. And then we had our Latino brothers and we had our Jewish brothers and sisters and we had
Absolutely.
white communities, people of goodwill. We all came together to make a difference. And that's why today we've got to get people to understand, for example, the majority of people on welfare are white citizens.
They are.
The majority of people on
They are.
Medicare and Medicaid are white citizens.
That's right.
And so when we advocate for these programs and you see the administration and Congress and senators trying to cut those programs, the majority of people impacted are going to be white.
That's right. Absolutely.
And so this is about all of us because of sheer numbers. When you just look at the population of this nation, we're disproportionately in prison.
Yes.
Because we don't have a judicial system that is fair.
That's right.
And I encourage everyone, there's a book my wife brought to me called Just Mercy. And I encourage everyone to read Just Mercy. And then there's a movie called Just Mercy.
Yes.
It talks about how this nation, how we try our young kids, teens, and some of them even aren't even teenagers as adults. and how we locked them away for decades,
Yes,
only to find later that many of them were innocent. And but the other
absolutely.
thing that is so amazing is that these young people, their minds haven't developed to the point they
They
see
have.
on television all of this violence that's been glorified, and they see what happens,
Yes,
but they don't see the back end of the consequences of
that's
doing
right.
time and
Absolutely.
all of that. And so how can we take our young babies and young kids, our young children, and treat them like adults and lock them up, when in fact, if you got money in this nation,
You
you
could get
get
off.
freedom.
Yep, you could get off. Yep,
So all of
absolutely.
those things we're trying to deal with in the 100. We have a program we just completed, we're going to expand, which is called the over incarceration of the black male. We did that with the judge,
Oh, wow.
OJJDP, because our young black males are being locked up. And people need to look at it. Our prison systems have been privatized, and so people make money off of our young black boys and Latina boys going to prison. And so we're trying to deal with the over incarceration issue. We got to deal with the fact that black men are locked up disproportionately in
Wow.
this country, and our
Yes,
Latino boys and young men are locked up. So with that,
absolutely.
we got to work together, and we got to quit being divided. We got to come together for what's in the best interest of this nation.
And that's usually how we usually fail and we usually stumble, is the fact that we divide ourselves.
Right.
And we cannot divide ourselves, but we have to unify and come together. And so I just admonish everyone, like, listen, come together, get involved, put Tommy said, listen, 1 hour a week, 1 hour a week could make a difference in a young person's life. If you do that 1 hour a week, that could be your lunchtime, your lunch break. Some of
Right.
y'all take an hour and a half for lunch, 2 hours.
These
You know,
young people, they would be amazed. Let me tell you, these young folks are phenomenal. And
yes,
and they're like sponges. They just take what you give them. Once you build
absolutely,
trust with them, I tell you, I've just been amazed over the years at what these young people would do if we just encourage them. All they need is encouragement. And
absolutely.
and and so I think those things are important.
I was I have a young lady, she called me yesterday from where I used to work at, and she called me, and when she first came in to our at the time, the Masonic Home for Children, when she first came in, she was, oh man, she was so disheveled and everything, but I was the first face that she saw. And so some of these young girls, they got that mouth, and so I can understand that mouth. And so we were talking. I said, "No, ma'am." And I used to pull her in my office and I had so many talks with her, about her behavior, about her appearance, and her being a young lady, and so forth and so on. And so she always told me, I don't care where you go, Miss Brenda, I'm always going to remember you. I'm always going to reach out to you. I'm always going to be there. And so another young lady hit me up and said, listen, she wants to call you. I said, absolutely. I thought she had my number. Why is she not calling me? And so she called me, and we were talking and texting and all that wonderful good stuff. And she was saying how, she was like, guess what? I said, what? She's like, I graduate this year. And I'm like, awesome. She's like, you told me I could do it. You could told me no matter whether or not my mother and father, you told me I could do it. And so I was so excited. And I told her, I said, please let me know all this stuff, because I really want to be a part of this. I want to help you get to your next and keep you focused. And, so that's important for our young people. It's important that they have someone that they know that they can depend on, and reach back to, and that you're not going to judge them and you're not going to belittle them, but you're going to empower them to be who you see they can be in their future.
That's so true, Brenda. And our challenge in our community, just as much as we deal with racism, classism is a major challenge.
Oh, yes.
There are people who think I've made it, I did it on my own, which none of us really made it on our own.
No, not at all.
But by the grace of God, we're where we are these days. And so what we have to do is make sure that just as we address racism, and it's got to be addressed, it's been here a long time, but we cannot settle for it, and we cannot be complacent about it. But we still have to deal with classism, because in our community, we do just as much damage because
Yes.
we lock people out. We're actually living in prison. Many people who lock themselves up in gated communities, even though people can get in if they want to get
Yeah,
in.
yeah, they want to get in.
And we find that those are the jails that keep us away from the rest of the community, rather than making sure communities better and safer so that our children and our loved ones can be safe wherever they go.
Absolutely. And the only way we're going to do that is to be visible in the community.
That's
We
so
cannot be, we cannot hide, like you said, behind our gates or whatever. We have to be visible in the community. And I'm a pastor, and so my thing is this: churches need to come out and be more visible. Like you said, Pastor Jamal Bryant, he's made y'all doing now this church in the community. You got to come out and be more visible. Back in the day, churches were always out in the community. They were always visible. You knew who that pastor was. You knew who was going through that community. You had a level of respect because that church was there helping and assisting all the time. It's not just because the pandemic has come along. I'm an outreach person. Now I'm not in North Carolina, but I'm in Virginia. But in when I was in North Carolina, in my church in North Carolina, listen, we used to go to a hotel that housed, homeless families. And we used to go there. We said, listen, I will have clothes, I will have food, I will have everything out there on that. Like, you come, and they was like, how much? Nothing. It's free. We're here to help you, and to bring them some resources. And help them along, and serving them dinner, and telling them take as much as you want. It's not about, because they don't have it. So you got to be visible. And so I admonish even the churches, please come and be visible. Churches, get involved, connect up with 100 Black Men of America, connect up with them, not only connect up with them, but connect up with their sister organization, Coalition of 100 Black Women. Connect up with them as well. We want to be visible. We want to change our community. We want to change what we're seeing and change what our children are seeing.
Right.
Which is so important. So we want you to connect up. We want you to be a part. I'm going to bring out your book as well. I want to bring out your book. Because this was the quote when I started reading your book. That quote, I put it right here. I said, "What you see is what they'll be."
Right.
Yes, I put it right there. I love that. I thought that was powerful. So what they see, that's what they'll be. And so listen, we want to talk about his book real quick. Let me see if I can get the camera right. There we go. The camera somewhat. Yeah, I'm terrible with this. Okay, there we are. So this is Tommy's book. The Miracles of Mentoring. Like I said, I already turned your book on to one of my friends. She's developing a mentor program called Cover.
Oh, great.
Yes. And she's, not only is she mentoring, but she's also incorporating, therapy and counseling, group therapy. And she's trying to bring Winter Watson, she's trying to bring families together to heal the family circle. So she's developing. I was telling her about this book, and I said, you got to get this book because there's strategic plans in this book. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, I was like, listen to this. And I was just going through it. So it's a phenomenal book. So y'all can get this off from Amazon because that's where I got it. And the matter of fact, I was like, I got to order this book because when I saw it, I had to order it. So go get this book, Miracles of Mentoring by Thomas W. Dortch Jr. He lays out, if you're trying to, and I admonish you, connect your mentor program up with them as well. We do it better when we do it together.
There you go. And I made sure the all proceeds that have come from that book goes to the 100 Black Men of America.
Awesome.
The important thing is folks to understand mentoring. When you mentor, you really do help to create miracles. And I mean, they're case in point. We had a young man in Charlotte, North Carolina in our mentoring program. He was about 6'7", 6'8". He wanted to be a concert pianist. His first mentor wanted him to play sports. And it wasn't a good match, even though they didn't do a hard sell, but he was adamant about wanting to be a concert pianist. He got matched with another mentor who's about 6'9". And simply said, if that's what you want to do, let's work on it. Let's work on a plan. And the young man eventually ended up at Juilliard.
Wow. Awesome.
phenomenal. But then I look at what we did here in Atlanta. We created Project Success. There's a young lady named Sonia Jelks, phenomenal young lady who when we first adopted a program we decided to go into the toughest neighborhood in Atlanta and to select a school to work with. We didn't want to go to some community where they were successful. And we went to Perry Homes, Archer High School, where only 43% of the students in 8th grade graduated. And we said, this is where we're going, because our mayor, the late Maynard Jackson, and Congressman Lewis, and a group of elected officials were going to spend the night at Perry Homes. Gunfire erupted. They left at midnight.
Wow.
And we said, that's where we have to go. Arch High School is where Gladys Knight graduated from. And that was back before the issues got really tough. But I just give you an example of Sonia Jelks, because we did a pre-evaluation, see what young people wanted. Sonia said she wanted to be an executive secretary. As a mentor, you never tell a young people that's wrong. But we said, it's okay. If this is what you want to do, these are the things you have to do. Sonia stuck to it. And we committed to all of them. They signed the contract. Stay in school, you perform, you get admitted to college. We'll pay 100% of your costs for college.
Wow.
Sonia was phenomenal. I mean, as with many of the young people. She graduated from Archer with honors. She was accepted at Syracuse University.
Wow.
We paid all of her costs to go to Syracuse. She graduated with honors from Syracuse and came back and said, yeah, I know you said undergrad, but I want to go to graduate school. And 100 of Atlanta said, we'll pay it. She went on, got a master's degree, honor. She was an honor student there. Today, Sonia is a city council person in Connecticut, has a PhD, has worked for Fortune 100 companies, but she went from wanting to be an executive secretary to doing the things she's doing now, because again, it's what they see, it's what they'll be.
Right.
If you think your options are these options, that's tends to be where they block themselves. But Sonia's come back and talked to a number of people. Many of our students who started in that first class of Project Success have come back. We've spent millions out of the Atlanta chapter. We've spent millions out of the world headquarters. We spent millions from other chapters in providing scholarships, because we can't ask somebody to invest if we don't. And so as we look at the book, as we talk, about the miracles of mentoring, it's important that individuals understand, one, you got to build trust. And as I said, you have to be consistent.
Yes.
Your mentoring programs have to be strategic. We call them SMART programs.
Yes.
They have to be strategic. They have to be measurable. You got to measure, because if you can't measure what you do, you can't determine if you're being successful. It has to be attainable. And then after you look at them being attainable, they have to be realistic.
Yes.
And then the final piece, after you talk about being realistic in these, they have to be targeted. So that's what we call smart mentoring. Targeted meaning you don't give every shoe doesn't fit all.
That's right.
And so you got to make sure that in your mentoring program you use a smart approach. But I think with that, and then there are discipline pieces. If you're mentoring a young person, young man and young female, you don't go in being the father for everybody in the family, because you can also create sibling competition. I mean, you can include them in certain things, but if you have a mentee, you got to focus on that mentee.
Yes.
And make sure you work with that mentee in the program. But yeah, you can have benefits for the rest of the family. But all of that said, you really create miracles when you impact the life of a young person, because you can make the difference between a person who may find the cure for cancer, who may be the next one to send someone to the moon or somewhere else.
That's right. Absolutely.
Because these young people are phenomenal. They're intelligent. We just got to work with them.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited that and a lot of times people are mentoring and they don't even realize that they're mentoring.
Yes.
And, and so if you have a young person and that you are really, and that's connected to you and you're connected to them, then you're mentoring. If you're helping them to reach goals, whether they're, you will consider small steps or big steps, you're mentoring. And so let them thrive,
Right.
let them explore, let them, investigate what they want to be and who they want to be, because that's where you're going to get that miracle. you know then all of a sudden they tap into that right thing at that right time at that right moment, and boom, there it is manifest to something so great and so phenomenal. So I am excited to be and to have, I can sit at your feet and listen to you all day. I really can. So I'm excited about that, that you consented to be part of this platform, Pastor BJ Connection. It's just been awesome. I hope you all have enjoyed it, Tommy, and I'm so glad that I have connected with such a prolific man, and all that he has done, and globally, nationally, you know, just in who he is, his own right. His name is forever etched in time already, because he has done such great work, in this world that you can trace. I often say, you want to know how great a person is if somebody can trace their name, you know. And if you can trace his name, and when you trace his name, you'll find out that there's value at the end of that name, because he has done such phenomenal work. And so kudos to you, and I salute you and who you are and who God has made you to be, and yet becoming, because it's not over yet. You have some great things that you're going to do. It's going to put some seals and some stamps on some things before,
Hey,
you have to find that name.
no, and I thank you. And I want to say to everyone who's listening, we have to be very careful. This COVID-19 pandemic is no joke.
Yes.
It's We've been disproportionately impacted because of preconditions, whether it's diabetes, obesity,
Yes.
hypertension, and so we are in that category that we have been impacted too much. I want to also, one of the things I've done even on interviews recently is I'm concerned that they're asking us to send our young people to school.
Oh yeah.
If the governments aren't opening up, and federal government and corporate America's not opening up, and municipalities aren't opening up, then why do they think it's safe for our young people to go into the schools?
Absolutely.
Infections that are running like crazy. There was over 900 people last week that had to be
Yes.
quarantined. And so it's greater than whether our young people are strong enough to address and deal with the COVID-19. They take it back home.
That's
And so
right.
parents get infected, grandparents get infected, siblings get
Absolutely.
infected. Our mayor, who's done a phenomenal job here in Atlanta, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom,
Yes.
she got infected. She didn't know she had it.
That's
And,
right.
and members in the family got infected, and who knows where it came from. So my message to all of us is, let's be vigilant. Let's
Yes.
understand. Let's wear those masks. Nobody ever imagined we'd be where we are now with this pandemic. This
No.
nation knew about it as early as last November, and
Yes.
unfortunately, the leadership did not step up. But we
Yes.
still have to take responsibility ourselves. So understand that COVID-19, the pandemic, is here. And also, the last piece I wanted to, Brenda, make sure
Mhm.
before we end this is that voting is a privilege and a responsibility. And,
Yes.
and the elections this year, with all of these efforts to suppress our voting, first we saw it even here in the primaries with the process, and we saw it throughout the country. We have a president who's trying to suppress by defunding the post office, and yes, defunding the post office, so
Yeah.
they can't deliver, and they can't deliver mail-in ballots, absentee ballots.
Right.
We have all of these efforts when in fact we should be pushing and promoting people using their civic engagement.
That's right. Absolutely.
And so, like our brothers and sisters did in South Africa, who stood in line for days when apartheid was finally ended and they had the right to vote, we've got to use our right to vote to change America,
Absolutely.
and understand that too many people sacrificed, from the Edmund Pettus Bridge to Bull Connor attacking our people, from Dr. C.T. Vivian and Congressman John Lewis and Dr. King being assassinated,
Yes.
and you can go down the line, Murray Evers, all of these people work for us to be able to have the right. And please, to all of us, let's go to the polls. Let's take somebody to the polls. If you
Yes.
are concerned, get your absentee ballots. But we need to have government, other people, by the people and for the people. And the only way that's going
Absolutely.
to happen is the people have to have their voices heard.
Absolutely. And if you have not registered, register. You should be registered. A lot of people, and I'm finding out that a lot of people don't have voting cards or library cards anymore.
Right.
I think you should have both, voting and library cards. Absolutely. Right. So get out, register, vote, make your vote count, make it happen. Thank you so very much. Tommy, I appreciate you so very much for consenting. I know we had some technical difficulties, but it still ended up being a phenomenal show.
Family always work through those.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So thank you so very much. If there's anything that we can do to help forward your goals and your mission, your vision, please do not hesitate to call on us. We definitely will want to. I don't mind getting my hands dirty for the calls. Okay.
I appreciate you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so very much.
Call me anytime. All right.
All right. Thank you. All right. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you all for joining in with us as we host the chairman of 100 Black Men of America. Thank you so very much. If you don't mind, if you have not, if you see this later, just put hashtag replay. Let us know that you're chiming in a little later, as well as do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe if you're on our YouTube channel. So thank you all very much. Have a great day. As we say for Pastor BJ Connections, a little of this, a little of that, but always more. Have a great day.